Community features, yeah. Yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call this committee of the whole meeting to order at 7 p.m. on February the 6th, 2023. I would like to recognize that we're on Treaty 5 land, traditional land of Indian Place Free Nation, and homeland to the Métis, and that we are all Treaty people. Next, I'd like an approval of the agenda. Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Lundmark, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, community comments or feedback. Second time, any community comments or feedback? Night again. Third time, community comments, feedback. Seeing none, thank you. We will move on. First, we're going into reports. 5.1 is development and technical services. Mr. Sopranos.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. My report is attached, just some of the highlights from the ISIP project side on the road renewal. Our consulting engineer, AECOM, has provided us with all the detailed designs for the 2023 work package. They are currently right now working on the tender documents with those. We expect those hopefully by the end of this week, and we will look to be tendering that before the end of February. To date, we spent $212,000 on that project against the total overall project budget of $40 million. From the water and wastewater renewal, tender package number 2, which was for Westwood Drive, that has been closed, and it has tentatively been awarded. Right now, the consulting engineer, which is Stantec, is working on the 66% design for phase 3. That phase 3 work is Tanya Drive east of Dominion. We actually reviewed those this morning. They are incorporating those comments and are now working towards the final tendering design work. That work will also be completed this summer. So we'll kind of have 2 phases for the water project working this summer. I've included in my memo the outstanding work from phase 1, which was last year's work. That consists of 7 main connections, 44 services, which will start, we're hoping to get it in May. Right now, we are totally invoiced on that project, $6.4 million against the total project of $48 million. Update on asset management software. We're working to get the asset management software rolled out. We have reviewed all of the data entry sheets for water, sewer, and road assets, which is kind of the phase 1 work. We are just working on one outstanding issue with regards to hosting of that software. Once that is completed, we'll move on. We did purchase licenses for SB ArcGIS software. So this is mapping software. It allows our engineering techs to map in a GIS software for querying and things like that. It'll also allow us to post kind of like Google Earth type things where you actually have a lot of the detail in behind your asset lines. So this will help us a lot more. From a development perspective, as an update, we have 5 options still outstanding with your options to purchase. There was 1 building permit issued in January with total construction cost of $40,000. Compared to last year, we had 1 permit for $45,000. So we're both very well here. And we did get our cloud permit software launched in early January. We've got 7 permits that have been registered through the program so far. The feedback has been very positive. The builders like the software, like the ability to be able to put all the drawings in, they'll have it all electronic. All of the correspondence between the building inspections department and the developer builder component is all managed in the program. So if something were to happen and somebody win the millions and leave, it's not like we're going to lose the correspondence because it's all now contained within the software program itself. So from a tracking and auditing perspective, it is a big advancement from the building perspective. That's my report for today.
Okay, any questions? All right. Seeing none, we'll go to 5.2 public works report.
Good evening. Our snow clearing operations obviously continue. Our crews are currently working 7:30 to 4:30 Monday to Friday. As the snow events happen, the schedules are adjusted accordingly. Our sanding operations continue. Our sander is running from Monday to Saturday from 6 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. And then our sidewalks, snowboarders and bobcats are out there during the sidewalk as well. We received a total of 144 centimeters of snowfall so far this winter season as per Environment Canada. I expect after this week will be more. The land trail maintenance continues with the snow clearing, as well as we have followed and created a sliding hill at the Queens Bay Park. That's the green space between Brandon Crescent and Queens Bay. So we created another sliding hill. We just felt that kind of unfair for the kids in Eastwood having to walk all the way to the TRCC for a sliding hill. So we created another one there. I haven't heard any feedback from it actually at all. So hoping it's being used, it's there for them. So hopefully it is. The outdoor rinks maintenance is continuing with the cold weather that we got. We weren't able to put a flood on the rinks. It was just too cold. It would make good ice. We were able to clear them. With the weather we're getting this week, as long as it doesn't get too warm, we should be able to get a few good floods on it just to get the ice back into better shape. Our waste disposal grounds continues its winter operation schedule from Monday to Friday. And then for the water and sewer repairs, we did 9 water main repairs, 1 repair, and 1 hydrant repair. If you look at the ongoing work, it shows we have 4 water main breaks, 4 water main breaks. That number as of Friday is now up to 7. On Friday, because of the cold weather, it's moving the frost and it's starting to snap our pipes. So we got 3 just came up on Friday itself. So water and sewer crews are going to be very busy, and we're lucky for the warmer weather because at 50 below, it's not very fun to dig a water break.
Any questions? Comments? Okay. 5.3 is the Thompson Public Library report. Anthony, would you like to?
Yes, this was a report just sent to us for information for council. It's not my report, but if there's any questions you'd like me to bring back to the library, I can do so.
I must admit, the library does give a very detailed report, and it's very easy to follow and see where the dollars go, and they do get one, so. Thank you. Is there any questions, Earl?
Yeah, I read down here, COVID testing of influent wastewater is continuing. Anybody know what the percentage is in Thompson right now?
Oh, yeah, that's the Public Works report. We wouldn't have that data. That's being done by Manitoba Public Health. They release COVID data, but that's a different item.
Yeah, I know, yeah, down where, wastewater treatment.
Councilor Lundmark.
Yeah, I'm just, what do we do to give the library that check, the first quarter check?
Okay.
They've already received the check, that report. You'll see the date of December.
Yep.
So they have received. So yes, they've received their first quarterly.
Just asking because I'm gonna be sitting on that and then they don't.
Yes, them and Thompson Recycling Center have both received their Q1.
Thank you.
Anybody has any questions? Get a hold of us right now. 5.4 is the Boreal Discovery Center report. Anthony?
Same, this is another controlled entity. They provided a report for council's review. If there's any questions that you'd like me to bring back to them, I can do so.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to finance. 6.1 is a letter from the RCMP in regards to the municipal policing agreement third quarter invoice.
Yeah, I was in public works here.
So we're in receipt of our Q3 invoice as it's noted. You'll see that the amount owed for this quarter is 1.4 million, which is about on par with what it normally is. So administratively, we'd normally just bring this forward for processing and payment. If there's any questions, we can bring that back. The mayor and I met with our new inspector today, who's been on the job for 4 months. He's going to be bringing forward a new report. I believe that's in 2 weeks. So council will have a new version of a report on PC details based on some of the priorities council's been doing.
You'll have the end of the year report, plus there's going to do a new format for the Monday report that I get the mayor's. It is some more detailed information. Councilor Wong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the concern about this report and the invoice, looks like they still cannot compute 38 members to us. When you look at that, it's only 34.5. So I'd like to know, I mean, I understand the shortage of manpower around the globe, okay? But somehow we keep on budgeting the amount, but we don't get the supply, so we should look into a different way to approach this matter. Because every year it become a surplus for us that we budgeted for. So it's concerning. We've been built up with the surplus huge, there's so many years. So maybe we should look into different way of doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anthony?
Yeah, so I'll bring that comment to the inspector so he can be prepared to address it at the next meeting.
Anyone else? Okay. 6.2 is a memo from the Assistant Financial Officer in regards to Princeton Towers receivership. 5409676 Manitoba Limited and Polar Bear Properties. Anthony?
Yeah, so as council is aware, this is a property that's been in receivership for multiple years. It's gone through the receivership process at the court of, I believe, the Court of King's Bench. It has come to a final settlement. As you'll see, the city was able to recuperate the vast majority of the outstanding. Some of those included penalties. Because some of these are on the books as owing, I believe it's about 200, it says 220,000. We would need council, a resolution to council to write those off. At this point, there really is no option. The court has decided what the payments are, and we've received the lion's share of our payment back. So everyone in this case has lost money. It was us, the bank, who owned the property, and the other people who were owed. We came out as one of the primary lenders, getting what was owed to us for the most part.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Wong?
I understand this is a court order, but I have a question about this kind of practice. Will this kind of process or this kind of treatment will apply to the little guy?
Pardon?
Will this kind of treatment will be applied to the little guy, which is like me, myself, I owe money, stuff like that, and then go to a receivership, at the end I got this.
It's
Is it going to apply to
the
me? as well?
exact same process.
Same process.
So if we get a court order. this
No,
is-
what I'm saying, is even a court order to me as well, would it be applied to the little guy, what I'm saying?
It's the same law in Canada. So yes, I don't understand.
The receivership.
Yeah.
Same regardless of.
Yeah, somebody else on receivership. You go in.
What I'm saying,
receivership.
waiving. Sorry, I'm talking to the.
Okay.
For waiving.
Yes, because if we have something that we're expected to come in as a revenue on the books, and then it can't come at the full amount, we have to bring it to council to write it off. If it's a small amount in the receivables policy, I believe the CFO or myself can write it off, but for larger amounts, we have to bring it to council to be written off. But there's bad debts that are written off every year as part of the financial process. This is a large amount, which is why it has to come to council.
That's what I tried to ask the question about the waiving this, the amount, the ruling. All right, thank you.
Anyone, Councilor Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with Councilor Wong. It is a large amount of money. However, if the court has ruled on it, we don't have any other recourse. There is no other way for us to retrieve this money.
And
correct?
there was a good chance we weren't going to come out with as much as we did.
Okay.
So we're actually very lucky that this is the amount. It could have been.
Okay.
not
So,
the amount.
Once the court rules, that's it.
Yes, our legal team was able to collect more than we expected to receive on this, so.
Councilor Trump?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of the 4.3, approximately $4.3 million, our CD was recovered of 74,000, something like that.
No,
Is that
so
correct?
out of the 4.3 million owing,
To the CD.
the only part we couldn't recover was the 200 and some thousand. We recovered 4 point some million.
Okay,
So we lost like 5%.
okay.
We couldn't collect 220,000.
It's 5.3%.
And you have to remember that some of those were,
5.3. Okay.
some of what was owed was also penalties,
Okay,
And interest.
penalties and interest as well.
thank you.
Councilor Oberdorfer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was gonna say this is a common practice with receivership. It's actually impressive that we managed to collect this much through the receivership process. And I think there should be no question about whether we write this off or not. We have no recourse to collect it. And we're very fortunate that we only cost 5% through that process. So
Yes, thank you.
we
Any
can
more
support.
comments? Okay, so I'm gonna, ask, can this be moved on to, city council agenda for Monday night?
Yeah, we request a resolution.
You regular issue? Carried. Next, we're going to public works. 7.1 is a review of the of the request from KAO directors in regards to copper top lots. Councilor Oberdorfer.
I would just like to declare conflict and recuse myself as I'm a board member on the KO daycare.
Okay, thank you. Somebody remind us to ask for it from back in and on the side. Just shut the door, Sandra, if you don't mind. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Neil?
So this is a letter received from the directors for the KEO daycare. They're requesting that, they could upgrade our copper top lot. It's not the top lot that is connected to the Riverside School, top lot down further down in the corner. And they would like to, as they utilize that top lot a lot with their daycare kids, they wanted to, at their cost, for fundraising efforts, upgrade the daycare or upgrade the site.
Just further to that, they made a presentation to the previous council before the election. The previous council had expressed support, but nothing had happened since. So it was felt that we should bring this back to the new council to get approval to, or have a discussion what to do next.
Any, Councilor,
Thank you through the chair. I was just like, was there any concerns? I couldn't remember. I don't think you guys had any concerns about taking care of the new material that they put in there, or just being an upgrade. And we have, I know we had other councilors in the past that were concerned about how many places we have for the kids to play in. I disagree. I think that there needs to be more, and I'm very happy that they're bringing this forward and they're flipping the dime to put our this infrastructure in. And I'm sure that we can, I hope that our staff have time to keep up the maintenance. And I definitely support this. Thank you.
thank you. Councilor Colbert.
I'd like to apologize for the last question. I was on the wrong agenda. But where exactly is it going? Okay, that lot's on the corner of Cobalt and Copper, right?
No, it's further down just on copper. I believe it's
Right
around
on-
one
right on.
23 copper. Right on the outside lot, right on the curb of copper, so. Come off of Nickel on the copper.
Okay,
and Keep on driving straight past the daycare, straight past Riverside School, down around that.
I know where that is. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay,
So the administration, if there's a consensus of the council, we would respond to them, basically saying, please go ahead. We can send them a letter on your behalf, saying, go ahead with this project that council is in support. We just need a consensus from the council.
Can we tell them too that we apply an ankle for that grant? That way? Put that in the letter?
We can add language to the letter that there are grants available, yes, to the community.
and I think most of them are where Sandra's on the board.
Okay, yeah.
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 So I just think a few years ago, actually long before my term on council, even, there was a master parks plan for the city. And basically, the city hasn't had the ability to follow through on a lot of the things. But over the years, I think we have to look at, we've had Rotary Place step up with the splash park. We've had the Lions Club with the airplane park. We've had Jumpstart come and do the big park over there. Community Foundation put money into the Eastwood Park. So this just follows, you know, that the community is actually involved in upgrading our parks and makes it a lot less financially, you know, burdening on our park down the line. So I personally think this is a great idea. So, by a show of hands, can we see who supports this? Opposed? Everybody's carried, okay, it's in full support. Can we ask Sandra? Thank you. Recreation, 8.1. Is a memo from the Director of Recreation and Community Services in regards to the donation of the Mary Finsky, boardroom for master curling. Sonia?
We received, I guess, through, in August of last year, the Department of Planning funded a presentation to council, requesting that they have Mary Finsky for the multi-purpose room, for their upcoming 2023 Index Provincial Championships, which is being on March 8th to the 13th. It's actually a 6-day event, not a 5-day event. They are asking for the donation or the fees to be waived of the Mary Finsky boardroom for the full event, because we cannot, they need it for the full event, so we can't rent out the space, so they need it for the full days. So the total value for the 14 hours that would be open would be 31,776. As for the fees and fines and the meeting of fees policy, the city is confident that we will get to 50%. We're bringing it to council before the resolution.
Thank you. Any further comments from administration? Council comments, Councilor Wong.
I think the policy allowed to waive up to 50% anyway, right? So I think that would be the direction I would like to see that. Thank you.
Councilor Hobart.
Where they're situated now, do they pay their own taxes or is that part of the city?
The way that the current arrangement is that the curling club, the city oversees the building on the outside, the interior is taken care of by the club. And the city and the curling club currently split the taxes 50-50, I believe. So in a way, I believe the city gives a bit of a grant towards that. With the previous council, the curling club had come and made a presentation that had asked that previous council to cover the taxes and take over certain parts of the building maintenance. And at the time, they said they were going to host this event and wanted to know if the city would provide those facilities to them when this event happened. As the director said, though, the way the policy is written, the administration can really only bring forward 50% unless council wants to go ahead and do 100% waiving, which should be outside of policy.
So what did you say there for 3100, is it?
So,
Yeah,
okay, so
3,177.
right now, we have the abilities for the 50%. I guess if we went for a partner in sponsorship, would be the only way you could do the other 50%. I don't know, I'm asking.
I wouldn't know, it would just be waiving 50% and then leaving them up to find the rest. Or council wanted to set the precedent of waiving 100%, just knowing that if council went against this policy, others are going to come and ask for the same.
Councilor Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, I agree with what Anthony just said. If we did give them 100%, then you're right. Every group in town is gonna want the same. So I'm kind of 50%, that's where I'm kind of sitting.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the 50,000 and that said the other groups will come in and request to get the 100%, but they're fundraising themselves.
I'm not sure of the status of their own fundraising. I think the curling club is expecting 100% based on discussions with the previous council. But the policy that we're bringing to you, your council's policy says 50%.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
Councilor,
This is not gonna happen until, thank you. This is not gonna happen until March, which, yeah, I know it's approaching fast. Do we have time to approach them and see where they're at with their fundraising?
I definitely can ask them to bring it back to the next.
And
I don't know if it would. make it unusable business, that will go to the resolution as well.
Okay.
A comment from Councilor Lumber.
I don't see how we could change our policy or go against it before. In 2 meetings. So I don't see how we could change our policy or go against it within 2 meetings. Before March 8th, so. If I don't at least 50%, but I would like to hear how they're making out, so we know. I don't think we're gonna jeopardize this. And this is a great news story, having everybody here for this. The amount of funds that are gonna be coming into the city, all the teams, all the. Things that are gonna happen down at our TRCC during that period of time. To deal with the policy that we've been following. We'll look at it, but we've got a week before the next council for the next meeting.
Councilor Lumber.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we have to stick with our policy until we change it. So I think 50% is my bottom line, so I understand the event might bring a lot of people in town. That's why I'm willing to go to 50%, which is based on the policy. Okay, I think it's more than fair enough to do that. And also, I also worry about, there's so many other clubs out there, they all come to us for 100%. So that's why we have to changes the policy one time based on all that reason. So I will stick with this 50% for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I'm sort of on the fence for this. I do agree with our 50% policy. I just wonder when it's like, a province-wide thing coming to Thompson, bringing a lot of investment dollars to Thompson, we'll be using our TRCC in the whole 9 yards. I'm wondering if, how it's going to be perceived just by the public, that we don't know about that. I'm definitely with everybody right now. I've got 4, I think, of our 50%. That's by a show of hands. Who would like to stick with the 50% as it is right now? Okay, Chris. We'll stay with the 50%. Yes,
Just need clarification. Does council want us to seek more information from them on their fundraising status? Or no?
No.
We'll do it.
I think you.
I'll ask if you told.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe you can get some report and, but like I say, like you said, you're on the fence, then still, you think about the hockey tournaments. They come from all over, Just mention that everybody has to pay what they have to pay. And then everybody fundraising in their own community, they fundraise for a couple of years.
so by show of hands, do we need any more information? Yes. Or no? I think we're okay with what we have here, what we got? Okay,
50%.
thank you. No, you don't need more. Sorry. Oh, the next one is 9. Development Technical Services, a memo from Director of Development and Technical Services in regards to bylaw 2032-2023, being a bylaw of the city of Thompson to amend the zoning bylaw. And I will be stepping out. I have contact. Councilor Lundmark. Former Deputy Mayor, you take the chair.
So 9.1. Another resolution. Look forward to the meeting of council. Can I have the director review the memo?
Yep, good evening. So back in August 2022, council approved a subdivision for a property which is part of Lot 1 Plan 29210. The conditions of this subdivision required a change in zoning bylaw and also a conditional use application. So this is the first step of that. This is the application that would look forward for the amendment to the urban hold zone to add boarding and lodging to that zone and make it a conditional use within the zone. The amendment also calls us to add a definition for boarding and lodging, which I put in the memo. That definition does not currently exist within our zoning bylaw as well. So bringing these forward, this has been reviewed by our district provider, Brett Mack, and he has drafted up the documents regarding the amendments, which are also attached to your briefing binder for this evening. So our recommendation would be to, with approval for you, to move this forward to the council agenda next week, which will then set the timelines for the meetings and public hearings.
Thank you. Do you have any questions from council? Councilor Colbert?
I've been against this project. Because in the urban zone. Can you tell me exactly what can be built in an urban holding zone? I read it before, but I can't remember, right?
Zoning bylaw for the urban hold. Allows the use of the area for, you can build a agricultural support services, amusement entertainment service. You can use it as a natural environment and refuge, public park, plaza or square, or for recreation. That is the principal use. And right now, the accessory use allows for a public utility or a community car. This would really be amending this zone to add boarding lodging.
Councilor Colbert?
Yeah, go ahead.
Councilor Colbert?
There's no map attached. I'm just wondering where specifically this lot 1/29210 was located.
So part of lot one, the lot as question, 29210 is part of the Creek Countdown. But this amendment will apply to any urban hold that's within our city bylaw. So that's why on the documents from Brett Mack, there is no map. Because it will apply to anywhere where there is a urban hold zone.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would just, I guess, like to know why we're considering changing it to include boarding and lodging, like, is there reasoning?
Yeah, so the original, subdivision came across last August. The plan for that subdivision, breaking one lot into two lots. The plan for the new lot is to be used as a, they'll be building cabins, like rental cabins, rental units on the property. But in order to have that done, this zoning bylaw amendment would have to go through to allow that to occur on the property. That was a condition as part of the subdivision that is registered by the province. So that wasn't us that came up with that, the city that came up with that condition, that was put forward by the province for the city.
Councilor Wong?
Thank you, Chair. Well, last time I was voted against this. But one of the reasons I asking because of the situation of this agreement. And I did ask the administration to find out, maybe there's some sort of agreement between the city and the particular person at that time. But based on the zoning, you're not allowed to have residential. But somehow there's a residential in there. So I don't know, this is way more than maybe 20, 30 years ago. So that's why I'm asking the administration to provide me the piece of document to say maybe there is a special agreement in place. Otherwise, to me, there's a violation in the bylaw or urban, what you call the zoning, that have a residential in that particular area. So now we go further. We're gonna amend it to the urban, code to, boarding and lodging, which is not allowed at that time. So I want to understand why you can have the first one. The first one, maybe there's agreement. I still saying, maybe there's agreement. I don't know. Until I seen the piece of agreement, then I will say, yeah, okay, maybe there's a special agreement to have that kind of setup. So other than that, I think somehow we've been through the argument before that time, even with Mac. I still disagree with him, what he said, because I still never seen a piece of agreement. Why that piece of land allowed to have a residential in there?
City manager?
So that's why I just kind of carry on what I say that time, but now I will still stand what I want to say, but I like to see the piece of paper before I make my decision for the next council meeting. I believe tonight we just go say whether we bring it to the council or not.
City manager?
Yeah, so there's multiple properties in the city that are not in conformance with bylaw. Bylaws change. This bylaw was brought in by the city in 2012. Things that don't conform now with the current bylaw could be what's called pre-existing non-conforming. So we have an area where there's a dog kennel. It's not allowed to have kennels now, but if it was there before, it was allowed under the previous zone, so it's grandfathered in. So there's a number of properties all over the place. So just because something maybe wasn't in place in 2012, this new zoning bylaw came in, it could have had previous permission to allow that to be in place. But really what we're looking at is tonight's bylaw change. It's not previous agreements, previous land sales, all that. It's, is council willing to bring forward the first reading of a bylaw to make a change to urban hold? And like we said, the municipal planner with the province has said, everything here is done correctly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Since I've been here, there's multiple cabins and lodging that's been going on over there since I've been in Thompson for 45 years. I mean, they're not there year round, but most of them aren't, but they come and go, and they do get rented out from time to time to different entities. There's more than one residential building over there as we speak already. So the way I see it, it's already been changed. So I don't see where adding more lodging is going to change the lay of the land over there, really.
I'd like to just clarify something here. I think our city manager tried to clarify this tonight. We'll be trying to be asking to move this bylaw forward to the next council meeting for resolution or to start the process. But it's also, it would make every urban hold. This would apply to every one of them. So if you look at your map on the bylaw, where urban holds are, would apply in all those different locations. So things going forward that apply for that type use will be allowed, right? So
No, close, but they would be conditional.
right,
So they would still have to come for council for ultimate permission. So principle, if it's a permitted use in a zone, they're allowed to do it automatically. If it's a conditional use, there still has to be a second application to say, can we do this? Council can say yes or no. So I believe the proposal is to add these as a conditional use to the urban hold zone, which means council can still say yes or no, we're gonna allow that or not. But now it's an option.
thank you for that clarification. Councilor Colbert?
I'd like to add what Councilman Long talked about. He wants to know residential. I would like to know parking lot, if there's any agreement. For parking. Or storage of vehicles, right? Because my problem with this is, I know the mayor's involved, but when he put in her application, there was only camping ticked as use of the ground. I don't care what goes over, I'll go for lodging, of course. But is, I want to know what is it, is it zone, is it conditional use? Right? So, I would like that question answered too, please, but I'm willing to move it forward. this question will come up again in council. Right, and then we got no answer. So tonight is the time to get the answers to these questions, because if there was a conditional use sign back in 2000, should be still on record. Right?
Thank you. Can I ask a clarifying question? The application you're speaking of, is that the one that came up in August for the subdivision?
Yes.
Yeah, so that relates to the new parcel of land. That,
No, I'm talking about this piece of land. It's residential. And the parking, storage and whatever you want to call it in the winter time, or campers and trailers. Right? That's what it's being used for. But on the application was only said camping. Right? That's my problem with it.
Can I get the city manager?
But
The application only said camping because that's what they're applying for on this carved out subdivided piece of land.
well, why would it have to be changed if you already got campers and that allowed there? She's got a campground there. Right? You know, it's too very confusing.
the use of cabins though goes beyond camping.
Well, okay. But somebody just said camping,
You,
okay, you can camp in mountains, yeah. But they're permanent. They're not campsites. Right? You know, like I said, I'm okay with passing it on, but it's nice to know these questions. Right? You know,
City manager?
so just a reminder, when an application comes forward through the planning act, we consider that application only. You can't go digging into other people's, into their business. Is basically, you look at what's permitted, so they're saying under these sections, I'm applying to use this land this way. Council can say yes, they can say no. That's what you're being asked.
Oh, we're not even being asked that.
This is, the ask is, the provincial planner has reviewed this, like to bring forward the first reading of a bylaw change. To allow urban hold or camping, whatever that, boarding and lodging in an urban hold
As conditional use.
as a conditional use. That's the question.
Councilor Overler.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have no concern, really with the application regarding the specific subdivided lot and what they're intending the use to be. I guess I would like to kind of discuss further what the implications of the entire urban hold zone will be if we decide to proceed with this. Because it will impact all urban hold zones versus just the specific subdivided lot, which is to me more of a concern.
Yeah, so that would be the purpose of the debate on have the first reading and then have that debate on what are the implications of this request? Because anyone's allowed to put a request in, then that's council's job is to start having that discussion. What's the implication? If we do this, what are the risks? So that's the purpose. This, the city can bring forward, there's maps in the zoning bylaw on our website, but we can have maps attached to the next meeting. If this goes to first reading, or I guess it actually has to, because the application's put in properly. We can still defeat it at that point. But we bring forward to show you where all the urban hold lots are. And then you can have your discussion on what the implications. Looking at it right now, the areas would be the Pacifico, most of the land north of the river, and then a few areas south of the industrial area. So that's the majority of the urban hold. But you're then making this change would allow you conditionally to build these kind of boarding areas in any of those areas. So normally what happens in the process, it'll go for a first reading, then the public becomes aware of it after its first reading. I believe there's a public hearing and it could go through second and third readings if council wants to make adjustments or to vote it down, that's up to council. But normally the first reading is passed to allow it to become a public discussion.
Any other questions? Have a show of hands to see who would like to move this forward to the next meeting. Everybody. Move forward. Thank you. I want to keep going. No, I'm just kidding. Somebody up there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Lemon. Next, we're going to go to 9.2, the letter from Shaw in regards to the facilities attachment license agreement made effective April 1st, 2013. And Shaw Cable Systems makes Shaw the city of Thompson. Who's speaking to us? Okay.
Yep, so we've had discussions with Shaw Cable. The previous agreement has come up. And they would like to renew for another 5 years. They provide free Wi-Fi points in city facilities. It used to be that you had to be a Shaw user to get onto the Shaw Wi-Fi point, but now they provide it free to anyone who wants to use it. So really the request is to renew for another 5 years that we'll maintain. Actually, they maintain them inside of our facilities. If there's no problems with council, we'll bring it forward for the resolution to allow us to sign off on this.
Councillor Colton.
How come there's no free Wi-Fi in the arena? If they gotta provide it.
They don't have to provide it, so they're providing this free. They're saying we're all willing to offer the service, but to come into our facility, we have to sign an agreement to say they're allowed in there. If we're feeling that there's not a good enough signal, we can discuss that with them. What areas of the building don't have a good enough signal?
But when you say our TRCC is a very important place to have Wi-Fi, I would say that.
This is
How do
where.
you go there?
This is where it is. So they are already maintaining it at the TRCC. They're asking to extend it for another 5 years. So they currently have a Shaw Wi-Fi point here in City Hall. They have one at the TRCC and they had one at the Norplex Pool.
Okay, so
I believe they're in UCNS.
Yeah, I believe they're there. Yeah.
I believe they could be there. I know I personally can't get on Wi-Fi. I have to use my personal data whenever I'm around the arena. Councillor Overderfer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is just regarding the agreement itself and what the cost is to the city. I know the Wi-Fi that they're providing is free to the public, but is there a cost associated with it for the municipality?
There is no cost to the city, my understanding. So this is a service they provide to the public. They'd like to maintain this inside our facility. I believe they cover their own power. It's really their own modems. It's all their own infrastructure. They just need an agreement to say, yes, you're allowed to be in our building.
Does that prevent other, like, MTS, I mean,
No, there's no exclusive right to this. So if other providers want to offer to do this, they can do so.
okay.
Any other comments? Okay, is everybody by show of hands is in favor of moving it ahead? Okay, move it ahead. Nine point three is a memo from the Director of Development and Technical Service in regard to the Manitoba Electric Service Agreement to install 27th Street lights in Deerwood Drive.
Good evening. So again, coming back to our water and wastewater project for ISIP, the French work that was done on Deerwood, a number of the streetlights were lost. Nations was cut. So Manitoba Hydro has re-engineered, redesigned the streetlights for Deerwood Drive. They are moving their design and their engineering to what they do in the rest of the province, in that all of the streetlights are now on one side of the road. And it's typically the opposite side of the water. So if we ever had a water main break 20 years down the road, not on road, not gonna leave for a while on our lines, we wouldn't have to have hydro come in to remove a pole to do water work. Okay, so this is the first electric service agreement for Deerwood. They are working on Juniper right now. The number of lights for Juniper is not huge. If you recall, Juniper was not an open trench construction, it was drilled. Drilled, so I think there were only 4 or 5 holes that were lost on Juniper. There are numbers that are operating on power, because they've lost their electrical connections without its electrical connections. Like, there are only 30 holes, so this is the agreement for the 27 streetlights on here will be replaced. At a total cost of $176,010. In talking with our engineering department, based on previous projects, this is actually price is coming lower than past projects. So I guess I have to say once we're seeing prices that are lower than previous. So again, this is the coverage that's here.
Thank you. I guess after reading it, I had a couple concerns. First off, the streetlights that we're replacing around town now, they don't have, much reflection. Sometimes you have to be right under the street, right almost to notice that it's even working in an area. And if they're going to do these streetlights on Deerwood and do them on the opposite side, that means they are not doing them on the sidewalk side. The sidewalk side will then not have streetlights. These streetlights will be on the other side of the road with no sidewalk. Those are just two of my concerns. Thank you. Councilor Wong?
So I remember when we discussed about the ISAP funding, we never mentioned about the street light. So we said this is part of the project as well.
So it'd be a cost because it was all destroyed as part of the trench construction, so the cost of this would be included into the ISO.
So what is the estimation for all the street light that would be potential damage by doing this project? And we have the estimation of just this portion alone?
Yeah, we don't, I don't have that total number, Councilor, because we don't know how future projects are gonna be constructed, whether it's gonna be trench constructed or grill. I can tell you for the phases that are out this year, again, it's the contractor's decision as to whether or not they want to trench or grill. For most of the work that's coming out this year, the engineering view is that the majority of it can be drilled, which means our impact to our streetlights will be.
Can I continue? Because I believe when the administration write the grant application for $48 million for the water and sewer renewal. So this part of the grant that you read, like this potential will be cost on top of the water and sewer. So how much is that? That gotta be in there. Otherwise, you can't just say, because of this street destroyed 27, other street destroyed 0. They gotta be the amount out of the $48 million just for this particular product, right?
I'm not sure, but follow you.
So you $48 million to do the water and sewer renewal, right?
Correct.
So out of the $48 million, some is going to destroy the light and light pole cover the cost.
Yeah, because
What is the estimation for this portion alone?
that I don't know the answer for, because again, it all covers same things, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, lights, all of those incidentals that get damaged or destroyed as part of the project get picked up. I don't have the number for that, Councilor.
The reason I bring this up, we don't know how many curb, sidewalk, street light were destroyed throughout this project. So we can string the $48 million because a lot of damage from that part. So we reduce our scope of work, reduce our footage of renewing the borderline. It's impossible because it's not a small amount. Could we go up to $1 million? We don't know. Right? So it's crucial to me. I like to know that amount, that what we are projected to be put on a site for doing all these damages. You can't just say like hypothetically say, well, 40 million must go straight to the water and sewer, but there's a lot of portion going to different things.
Anthony?
The grant was based on average cost of previous projects, which would have taken into account water, sewer, and any of the damages that were seen on past projects. So those numbers were used when we did the application. So there would be average cost for repairs and remediation after work was done. That's how the grant was applied for. You're not, as the director said, you're not going to know for specific areas until the engineers come in and say, like you said, this area can probably be drilled, no, this one has to be trenched. So was there a projection when the grants were applied for? There was just an average number that was used for all the application. Based on the previous X amount of years, that was used to the justification to the province and the feds to why they should give us the money, and we accepted that. So we can't project the next 5 years of remediation work, because we won't know that until the scope of every year's work is done, and then we select the method that has to be used. So.
Council Colbert?
When you put out the bid, in that bid, can you tell me how many streetlights were going to be destroyed? Because when they put the bid in, they should know that, right? Like, don't the city know where the water line is? Where every streetlight is? So when you go back and look at it, you can see which lines go what side of the street, and then the street lights are up. So that should be, anybody bidding on it should know how many street lights are gonna have to repair by damages. I would, if I was doing the bid.
Go ahead.
The thing with that is, they know the streetlights are gonna be impacted as part of the construction of the trenches, right? But Manitoba Hydro is actually redoing all the foundations on the other side of the street for lights that weren't trenched or weren't destroyed. So the contractor could have counted, because remember, lights alternate sides on here. We're gonna take, you know, 13 out.
Yeah.
Ish, after 27. But now they're replacing all of them on the street. They're able to salvage some. And if they're not salvaging half of those, or half salvage, half of it. But all the foundations and all the electrical have to be all redone.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah, but now, what budget is this money coming out of? Is this the city's budget, or it should be their budget on the bid?
Well, it's coming out yet, I said, total project cost.
Yep. Okay.
Council Overder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to speak more to your concerns, because I have the same concerns regarding community safety and the lighting being on one side of the street. When we think to, like crime reduction through environmental design, is do we know what the implications of the lighting are going to be if they're all on one side of the street? Is there any, that's identified in the community safety and well-being plan? And I would just be concerned, especially, I didn't realize that they were going to be on the opposite side of the sidewalk. I was mainly just concerned regarding the fact that the lighting was only going to be on one side, and concerned more now knowing that it's on the opposite side of the sidewalk. So I'd be interested just to know if we understand clearly those implications.
I will take that back and talk to Hydro around the reflection rate and the code for the lights. After your question, Madam Mayor, I try to think in my head if there are any places in town where that exists today, and there are. On Weir Road by the Waterloo French School, the lights are all on the one side of the street, and the multi-use pathway is actually on the opposite side of the street. So I will take a look through there and also talk to Hydro around the style and type of lights compared to what's on Weir, and come back with an answer.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, I will move forward the resolution, or this is tabled from there.
Is this a time sensitive? Do one more.
It is and it isn't. If it's not approved, it just potentially delays the execution date of the work. If you look at the service agreement, I think they've got a completion date of July. I think this could potentially just shift that date further into the future if we delay the agreement.
Okay.
So is council requesting that information in another committee to hold before proceeding? I guess that's the question. It has to come for a resolution at some point. Or can we bring it forward for a resolution next week and bring the information to that meeting?
Okay.
So there'll be a resolution at the
So
next meeting.
everybody's okay with the resolution as long as we get some of the concerns dealt with? By show of hands, is everybody in favor with that? Opposed? Okay, we can bring the resolution. Next, we're going to public safety. 10.1 is a letter from Volker Beckman in regards to UCN Drive. Anthony?
This is just a letter from a community member who has concerns about the traffic in the UCN Drive vicinity, especially if council is considering any sort of new facility there, namely a pool. Also, more generally, just the traffic overall. I believe in our previous discussions, we had some discussions with council on some of the things we can look at with traffic, and there's some concerns about the Artie Parker work that's going on. And I believe that the administration is going to work on a proposal for a traffic study. So that was already being worked on independently of this letter, but this is really a letter for council's consideration as information from a member of the public.
Any comments? Seeing nothing, we have addressed the concerns in the letter. 11.1 is an email from AMM in regards to Association of Manitoba Municipalities General Insurance Program.
So this is something that was brought up at the spring convention of AMM, that under our general insurance through the AMM program, that all municipalities in the province are going to have to develop and adopt an abuse and molestation policy. This has been sent to us now by the AMM's insurance company. They've asked us to have it signed and returned to them by the end of the month. The concerns that the administration has with this is there's a complete understanding of why the policy is needed, but the policy has to develop procedures for staff as well as training. And the timeline that they've asked us to turn this around, we're not sure if we're going to be able to make those timelines. This is a concern that's been brought up by multiple municipalities. So I plan to reach out to our deputy mayor, ask her to address this with the AMM. But just for council to know that we may have to bring this forward for a resolution the way it is right now. And then the administration still will have to work on procedures. We've had some minimal discussions with legal on this at this point.
Any questions, Councilor Lund?
I'm all for having a policy like this and following the Association of Manitoba Municipalities or the and municipal guidelines. But if they're tightening the timeline that is, I don't know if it's absolutely necessary to do that. I don't know if we should we not send a letter requesting an extension if we know pushing our staff to try and read this and it doesn't seem reasonable to have a deadline that doesn't have any logical reason for it. We're all in favor of it.
Council desires we can write a letter requesting an extension and explain that the time to develop the procedures as well as to train all 140 staff on those procedures. We're not going to get that done in 2 weeks. So if that's a consensus, we'll send that letter explaining that we are all in favor of doing this. We're just not going to have it done in 2 weeks.
Councilor Overgrove, do you have a question or?
I was just basically gonna reiterate what Councilor Lundmark said, like AMM is familiar with the business that councils do as that's kind of their job. So they should know that giving us a 30-day turnaround time is not really realistic. So I think asking for an extension seems reasonable.
So is everybody in agreement, or did you have a question? first?
Just quickly, if we, so the letter we're sending, and they don't agree with it or whatever, and not give us, can we bring this letter back before before the end of the month?
Yet we still have the opportunity to bring it to regular council on the 13th. And if you come back to the committee, the whole of the 20th as well.
So then it'll be on the 27th.
Yeah, so we do, that would be past the deadline of what they've requested, but we'll have those discussions with them.
Councilor Carter.
Thank you very much. I didn't affect that family thinking.
Oh, sorry, it'd be the 21st.
Closer.
Yeah.
So by show of hands, who is wanting our administration to write the letter of extension to the province? Okay, carried. Thank you. 11.2 is an email from Laura Finley, Community Development Officer, Community Future, North Central Development, in regards to sponsorship for Winter Cities Shake-Up Conference.
Yeah, so there's a request that there's the Winter City Shake-Up Conference happening in Winnipeg next week. There's a request from the group, the city provide or support the setting up a city or Thompson table at this conference. And they're requesting $1,000 sponsorship. Council could sponsor this out of economic development funding. And the information is attached.
Comments? A show of hands, who is willing to sponsor the $1,000?
Question.
Councilor Woodward?
Thank you. Madam Mayor, is this something that we would normally sponsor?
This is a one-off. I think this is the first time Winnipeg has hosted a conference like this. The plan there, though, is with the economic development is to boost Thompson's winter weather testing. So there'd be a booth there, the head of the Thompson Regional Airport and the winter weather testing campus is one of the keynote speakers speaking at lunch. And that would allow a member of staff or council to attend the conference and promote Thompson as a place to come do business. So it's more on the economic development side. And it's normally council would consider economic development. It's really your choice if you'd like to support it or not, but you have the funds available and activity if you need to.
Any other comments before I ask the question?
Yeah. I
Councilor
just think
Thatcher.
the Thompson, Curtis Ross, well, Curtis doesn't actually live in Thompson anymore, but he does work here.
Mhm.
So, but he is a good, promoter of Thompson, I know that.
And he is going to be one of the keynote speakers at this conference, so that's just, you know, we just, Thompson Sub-Zero and the winter weather testing just signed a document with Transport Canada will get us more recognized even for
Which is a
winter
good
weather
thing.
testing and that. And this is just one more, this is a small way to support actually a really big event. Councilor Colville.
Does Curtis work still on the airport
Yes.
authority?
Yeah.
See, that's good. The other thing. We're donating $1,000. If we want to send somebody to this meeting, that extra cost.
Yeah, it'd be extra cost, but we already have staff and the mayor's already in Winnipeg.
I'm going to be in Winnipeg at that time. So
Okay.
it won't be extra.
Fine.
There's already other meetings set up. So,
Okay, so by show of hands, who's willing to ride this out? Okay, opposed? Carried.
So the timing on this one's awkward because it'll have to go for resolution to approve the spending next week. But we'll have to let them know where council wants to go. So it's a bit of an awkward setup.
2.3 is a letter from Deputy Minister Bruce Gray in regards to 2022 transit ridership and 2022 financial transit operating.
It's really just a letter from the department letting us know that based on the data that was provided, that we could be receiving additional money for information to council.
Any questions? Councilor Colburn.
So they already agreed, so. That when we were told was 21,000.
There was previous money that was in another letter that we reviewed a few weeks ago, but this is letting us know that there will be more money coming. It's not identified how much is coming.
What was 13 million is there?
I think the majority that'll go to the city of Winnipeg.
Thank you, thank you.
11.4 is a letter from Minister Clark in regards to the 56 agreement and the firefighting. Training.
This is a response from Minister Clark to our meetings with her and her staff at the AMM conference. So all of council was present at the AMM conference in November, and this is her response to the comments that council brought forward at that meeting. So receive for information, and we'll continue to work with your staff as we receive further or different direction from council.
And comments? Okay. 11.10 is a letter from the Hudson Bay Route Association in regards to their annual achievement. Okay,
This is another one received for information from this organization, and they've included a membership sign up if council would like to sign up to this organization.
so with this Hudson Bay Food Association, they basically, from Saskatchewan right through to Churchill, and they keep an eye on what the commodities are that are going through. The Hudson Bay Route Association makes sure the Bay line is kept informed, sometimes when other entities sort of forget about them. I've talked to them on quite a regular basis. They were actually left out of a few of the meetings lately that had been held in talking about the new route, there are new things that are going. So they're back in the loop. I had a meeting with Jim Burchide when I was in the tourism meeting afterwards. And this is definitely, with Thompson being the hub, when everybody talking about us, and you know, right now with Valet talking about putting product up there. We've got oil people talking about cubes of oil going up there. We've got the grain from Saskatchewan that wants to do more. We still have to protect, and this is what I tell them, we only have one track. So we still have to protect our passenger trains for the outlying communities. So it really is important that we're kept up to date. And if we join, I believe it's $300 for the price for a city or that to join. That keeps us up to date. So if we have to do any lobbying outside or I think it just keeps us in the loop for our rail line through our cities. With that, I'll open it for other comments. Councilor Colbert.
Do we have any people from our city or organization sitting on these boards?
No, we don't, because we don't pay membership, even we don't even get information from. I've gone to some of their meetings in the past. Since COVID, I haven't, but before at my own cost, I traveled to the PAW twice, and I was here at Thompson when they had the meetings. Anyone
Thank
else?
you.
Councilor Wong?
I don't know much about this. Why do we have to pay a membership for that?
Pardon?
Why do we have to pay for that,
Pay a membership fee?
Yeah.
Because they pay for their meetings that they have, it gives them the ability to send out all the information from their meetings and that to the departments and that. It's like joining a club and you get a membership, it's just a bit more expensive possibly. Yes, Councilor Young.
A small amount of money for a membership, like I belong to a number of memberships that I pay personally, $240 or $300 a year for it. We're losing a ton of opportunities in the city of Thompson. Like I recently had to take via rail up to Churchill and met a bunch of people on that rail line that said they were looking for things to do while they were stopping in Thompson for 5 or 6 hours. And they said they couldn't find a pamphlet or anything about this. So they didn't know what to do. They got off and went to Walmart. I'm sure that we have tourism people that could take advantage of some of those times, or even if you're a member of this, you could ask for that stop here to be a little longer or something, so we can get some of the tourism dollars from that train that comes through. And I was surprised how many people are going back and forth. You know, they stop here for 8 hours and don't know what to do. There's things that we could offer that could give the experience of Thompson. There's so many things that we take for granted that people from Australia, France, England would just die to try, right? The Royal Discovery Center has snowshoeing. If somebody picked them up, or if they knew to take a cab over there and went snowshoeing, or they could, I don't know, see a snow, go for a snow ride, drive on a lake. Most people around the world, if you say that you drive on a lake to go fishing, you can't hole in the ice, they think you're crazy. So it's just, there's opportunities there. I think this, by being a member of a board like this, we can at least present our side and see if there's something that we can get for our city from the rail line. And also it gives us opportunities. You know, the more we know about this, we even talk about it in our meetings. There's a lot of people in Thompson that are taking the train in. There's things that we can do there that it opens you up to beautiful experiences that it's a long ride. But But it was. a wonderful
These
experience.
folks do a
Thank
lot of
you.
advocating, both the provincial, but mostly the federal government for funding that goes in and work with, the different entities that go on there. Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm in agreement with, Councilor Lundmark, seat at the table keeps us informed of what's going on, and I think it's a small price to pay, and, again, you're right about, people coming into town, they don't know where to go or what to do. I, personally toured 2 women around today from, Virginia. They stopped in at our store and asking for the bank. I said, well, I'm leaving in a couple minutes if you want. I said, I'll give you a tour of the city and point out a few of the highlights, and so I toured them around for about a half an hour and then took them to the bank.
Yeah, and they love it. We do it from the campground all the time.
And, but yeah, because they were looking for a museum, they didn't know where it was, I took them up there. But if we had a shuttle or something, to promote the city,
And the tourism does work on that. Tourism is working on one of our main things we gotta do is get a destination marketing office. Travel Manitoba, and that was all talk, so. Anthony,
So I'd ask if there's a consensus of council wants the administration to sign council.
by show of hands, who is willing to join the Pennsylvania Restaurant Association? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll identify if there's funds already allocated, or if we have to identify new funds, then it'll come to resolution.
11.6.
Letter. Coming back to the railroad, yesterday was like cold, right? And they're blowing in, and I see this guy who was at the deli, and then he was going to the train station. So he asked how to get there, and they told him how to get there, so. And I had to get lunch for my dad and my daughter, and so I said, I figured, well, I'm gonna head down to the train station, give him a ride. And he was carrying whatever he had, his groceries, and that, the windows is blowing on him, and I asked him, do you want to do ride? I said, you still have quite a ways to go. He goes, you guys have a shuttle? I said, the shuttle right here, jump in, so. Yeah.
That happens all the time. And then again, Friday, all of a sudden, we got notice Thursday, there was no train went Friday. I had a pile of people that were coming from the States, and that actually, we had 7 people that were booked on the train for Friday, and they hadn't got notice. They were in town. They didn't get out till tonight. So we took them out. So it's just things like that to keep the railway honest that were included in things. Sandra?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just gonna say, as a person who's traveled the rail line to Churchill and that's my entire life, and I also previously lived in Churchill. There's lots of economic development opportunities, not just tourism opportunities, and there's lots of things happening with that rail line, and lots of discussions happening in the Bay Line communities right now. And I think it's would be a huge loss if we weren't able to get part of those conversations. Tourism aside, there's a lot of opportunities that we could potentially get in on or partner on that will have a positive impact on our community if we're involved in those conversations. So definitely can support.
Thank you. So I think we hold the meeting agreement. 11.6 is a letter from NFM Forestry Matter. How's that sound, folks? Corporation in regards to 20 years forestry management plan. Anthony?
Yeah, again, this is for information. This is a letter from Andrew Ford with this organization, updating everyone on their plans and directing you to their website to review more if you'd like more information. And if there's any concerns that the council has, we can bring them forward for them to review.
Any comments? Councilor,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if it's this organization, but there was a letter that came forward a few months ago that about Manitoba forestry, and there was supposed to be some engagement sessions or something set up, and I know we were going to look into whether we could meet with them or participate in that, but we've never heard back. Is this the same organization?
I'll have to follow up on that and see back on the minutes which organization. I don't know what to.
thank you. And we have come to the end of our agenda tonight. I'd just like to remind everybody that Winterfest is February 24th, 25th, and 26th. And if you still want to be part of the organizing group, Wednesdays at 1:30 at the PRCC, they're still taking. If you can't be available then, get a hold of Darlene, Dick, 204-677-7952. And she will help you, keep you informed of what's going on, or if you have some, things you'd like to add to Winterfest. It's definitely looking very exciting this year. It's back to good old normal activities. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor McIver, Councilor Colbert, all in favor? Carried.
I think the last one would be, first was